we've created and co-created a pretty safe existence for ourselves. And yet the mind and the ego continues to play tricks on us, thinking that we're not as safe as we actually are. And that thought process, that negative self-talk of you're not enough, or you haven't done enough, or you're not loved, leads to conflict. It leads to alienation. Social distancing leads to alienation. And when you're alone, you're left to your own devices. And when you're alone, that's when some of these mental health issues begin to develop and then exacerbate themselves over and over and over again, because you're still stuck in that sympathetic nervous system response. Our technology helps to reset that. In as little as 15 minutes, it kicks in the chemical cascades that bring you out of sympathetic and into parasympathetic.
Good. Welcome back. Another episode of the Dr. B VIP. I'm here with Craig Goldberg. And I got to tell you, doing a little research on you, we are so friggin' in harmony. And I know your company is in harmony.
But warms my heart when I hear the words used elsewhere too. It's great.
What's your background story, and how'd you get into creating this?
Totally. Yeah, I appreciate that. So about 10 years ago, my wife got sick. I feel like my story starts the ways a lot of folks that are going to be watching, and a lot of folks that are in our field that are interested in natural health start this way. And it's through the conventional medical system, where we tried to get answers for about 6 months. We went through every test in the book, specialist to specialist, doc after doc, and nobody could tell us what was wrong. In the end, it wound up being gluten. We removed gluten from our diet, and 72 hours later, all of our symptoms went away.
Wow.
Like that. And obviously we went gluten-free. This was 10 years ago. We didn't have nearly as many gluten-free products as we do now. In fact, then it was just 2 columns. It was a gluten-free section in the grocery store. I remember it distinctly because that was what I felt like I was limited to at the time. And of course, we gave up gluten. My wife got better over the next 6 months, and I got worse. And I couldn't figure out why. And I really began doing a bunch of research trying to figure out gluten sensitivity in your immune system. What exactly was it that had me with these symptoms? A low-grade fever, runny nose, a cough that would come and go, nothing too significant, nothing too disturbing, but just couldn't kick it. And in hindsight, I figured out that I was really just going through a detox, that my body was no longer, being overrun by the inflammatory response of the gluten, no longer distracted by the gluten. And now all of a sudden it could clean out 20 plus, 30 plus years of debris and let's just call poor habits. And that's exactly what we did. So over the next 3 to 5 years, my wife went down and I just went down just about every rabbit hole there was around chemicals. And we came up with really understanding these 3 main environments: what we put in our mouth, what we put on our skin, and what we allow to be kept in the air around us. And we wanted it as clean as possible. And one day I came home from work after being vegan and not using any of these pesticides, chemicals. And so there was no deodorant, there was no cologne, no perfume. We had gotten rid of a multitude of different inorganic products and chemicals. And I came home from work one day and my wife she greeted me at the door like she usually does. She gave me a big old hug and she went, "How long have you smelled like that?" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "You stink. And you're not leaving the house like that tomorrow. I'm going to get these things that I just heard of called essential oils." And she goes to the store. She buys 25 bottles of essential oils, comes back, starts mixing them. And this led us into a real deep dive into understanding and appreciating the value of essential oils, how they work, how they operate with our nervous system. And we started traveling and teaching about it. And I would go to these yoga retreats and I would go to these festivals and trade shows, conferences where we were speaking, and inevitably I'd be introduced to sound healers. And I didn't know what it was, but I would check into my hotel and I would go to the sound healer. I didn't know what was going on or why I liked it, but I'd lay down in front of a gong, a bell, a chime, a didgeridoo, a bowl, whatever. And 45 minutes later, I would wake up and I felt amazing. And I wanted to create this on my own. I was like, I need this on tap. And I'm an audiophile. I like good music. I like the way things sound. And I was laying on the ground in my living room. I had a 5.1 Dolby surround sound system in my house. I took the center channel and put it in between my legs. I was all starfished out. Took the rear right and the rear left and the front right and the front left. And I bought a gong CD and I'm just sitting there cranking it. And my wife literally came home with a bunch of groceries in her hand. She had to walk from the garage to the kitchen. She stepped over me with this disgust. I'm with my wife 15 years. We love each other. She's my twin flame. It wasn't real disgust. It was just like, she kind of looked down at me, and I'll never forget the way she looked at me. She was kind of like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I want a sound healing on tap. You know, I want it in my living room when I want it. And long story short, 3 months later, rather, I get a phone call from my now business partner, Dom, who says, hey, I created something called the Sound Lounge. You got to come down and check it out. And that's when I had my first experience. So I went from trying to create something myself and using the wrong technology, not knowing that I was using the wrong technology, to now working with and being a part of, at the time, Holistic Health Science, and now In Harmony Interactive, making vibroacoustic therapy technology, which is a mouthful, but I'm sure we'll talk more about it. But that's how we got into it.
Okay. Yesterday I flew
There's a lot
in.
there.
I flew in from 2 weeks in Thailand, and had a couple of patients with some neurologic issues. And of course, they're taking sleeping pills, which accentuate and make neurologic damage worse. And I said, have you guys tried essential oils? What's that? It's kind of cool. It's like discovering a new world, but I'm with you 100% on that.
Totally.
Okay, brainwave states, because I mean, we got to talk about vibrational energy, because that is the future. It's like even intention has a certain vibrational energy. What about brainwave states and ability to relax? Okay, can you touch on that?
So totally. So my background is in vibroacoustic therapy. Vibro is vibration, acoustic is sound, and sound and vibration is everything. We're learning more and more every single day. It's one of the things I love about what I get to deal with every day, is that we're learning more and more about sound and vibration frequency on the regular. And in the mid 1950s, they discovered the echoencephalograph, this EEG, which is like a swim cap that you can put. I know you know what this is, but for everybody else, it's a swim cap that you can put on your head. It has 19 points on it, and it basically tests how fast the synapses in your brain are firing. And on the computer screen, you see a readout of all of these different sensors, and they're all giving you a different frequency. And this is what we start to look at in the brain, and how we start to get into the concept of brainwave states. And there's 5 of them. There's 6 actually, but we'll talk about the 5 main ones. And I'm a visual kind of guy, which is why I put my hand up. We're in beta right now. Eyes are open. You're processing the world around you. It's typically measured between 12 to 14 hertz, all the way up to about 40 hertz. Above that is gamma. Gamma is 40 hertz and above. Gamma is associated with higher states of consciousness. Beta is eyes open, processing the world around you. Directly below that is alpha. Alpha is between 12 to 14 hertz down to about 8 hertz. Theta is below that. It's 7.5 to 8 hertz down to about 4 hertz, and delta is 4 hertz down to about a half a hertz. Meditation is at 10 hertz frequency, which we can talk a lot about. That alpha brainwave state is where creativity begins. It's where mindfulness and meditation begins. Rejuvenation begins there. And then theta, which is where we are during REM sleep, where we are when we astral project, when we dream. This is where meditation really lives, rejuvenation really lives. And then delta, if you ever moved a friend and it's like moving dead weight, they're experiencing a delta brainwave state, no motor skills, all of your senses are turned off. This is where cellular rejuvenation happens in delta. And over the course of a sleep cycle, we're going in and out of all of these different brainwave states. And over the course of the day, we're supposed to be moving in and out of these different brainwave states. But a lot of people have challenges with that. And that's where a lot of the tools and the tech that we've been able to procure and come up with really helps and supports the healthiest version of you.
This is the key. I mean, when we talk about achieving the REM state of sleep, that's literally when healing occurs. And one of the things that drives me crazy is the monitors that people are using. It's not an iPhone, the wrist thing. Yeah, some of those.
Well, there's the Whoop. There's the Aura Ring. I mean, there's a ton that's out there.
That monitoring that we use heart rate variability to measure the autonomic functions. Yep. And that fight or flight response is what most people are under. Now, how can, because we talk about, and it's interesting, a lot of the videos that we do when we say, look, prayer and meditation is one of the 5 keys to tissue regeneration. And so many people, they have a different point of view. Meditation is dangerous. But no, it's.
I've never heard that one. That's new.
Oh, you believe me. Yeah. uh, you getting into the OM state, getting into that, getting out of the fight or flight response, where you can get in the opposite of fight or flight is tissue regeneration.
Totally.
And looking at some of the products and utilizing sound and vibrational energy, people are getting control of that. They're able to get into that deeper state.
You hit the nail on the head, and that is, I mean, obviously talking to a chiropractor around parasympathetic and sympathetic is one thing. Talking to the public around it, most people don't realize, and as soon as I share this, I think a lot of the listeners out there are going to be like, "Wow, that's me." So, and Naam touched on this as well when he was talking through the Butterfly Factory and the work that he's doing, specific to our technology and specific to how the body operates. And it's one of my affiliates and business partners is here in the room listening, and we were just having a conversation at lunch talking about what frequencies and what tracks and really how broad and how general it really is, because our technology is about calming and relaxing the nervous system. It's about moving you from a sympathetic nervous system response to a parasympathetic nervous system response. And look, I use all the technology that you just talked about. I got AirPods in my ear. I've got an Apple Watch on my wrist. I don't monitor sleep at night. In fact, at night, my cell phone is more than 3 feet away from me when it's charging. I don't wear the Apple Watch. I obviously don't sleep with AirPods in. I give my entire body. I take everything off. No crystals, no nothing except this necklace. And that's how I sleep at night, giving my body a rest to rejuvenate. And one of the reasons for that is so that I'm not stimulating a sympathetic nervous system response while I sleep. Because unfortunately, too many of us are walking around in a sympathetic nervous system response all day long. From the second we wake up, the reason they tell us not to check your phone is not so you don't get updates on the world. It's so that you don't get negative updates that slip you into a sympathetic nervous system response, because so many people are walking around all day long in a sympathetic nervous system response for the silliest reasons. That sympathetic nervous system response is triggered into the back of our brain, the reptilian part of our brain. It's been around for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years to keep us safe at night. And even as I sit in this hotel room in Tampa, Florida, and because I can't sleep in my own bed, I go to a hotel that's very safe, that's very calming, where there's people here to cater to my every need. We've co-created a pretty safe society. And there are, of course, certain exceptions to that. But generally speaking, we're safe. We're not going to die, and we're not going to be in a situation where we might die. But that reptilian part of our brain is still triggered just the same way as it was 200, 300, 3,000 years ago. And we slip into that sympathetic nervous system response, and many of us don't come out of it until our head hits the pillow that night. And when you're in that sympathetic nervous system response, there's 4 things that happen that I think are most important. The first is cortisol and adrenaline flow through your blood, which has a chemical cascade in the body that overall is good if you need short-term power to protect yourself against something that's fleeting. But generally, to sit in that state all day long with cortisol and adrenaline, it's going to start causing issues with your adrenaline, with your adrenals, and start causing all sorts of other issues with your hormones. The second thing is your body turns off your ability to digest food. Doesn't matter how clean, how organic, how unprocessed, how good. If you're in a sympathetic nervous system response, not digesting food, it turns off your immune system, and it turns off rational thinking. So even though you're making decisions all day, you're not thinking rationally, even though you think you might be. So it's leading to poor decisions, which then has this domino effect to the rest of your life. When we walk around in that sympathetic nervous system response, we are ill-equipped to handle the normal day-to-day trials and tribulations, let alone some of the more complex things that we're tackling day in and day out. So our technology focusing on resetting your nervous system and putting you in a parasympathetic, it helps you to better operate. And that's not even getting into the biochemical responses that you started to touch on in the body, where healing actually happens. When all of those things are turned off in a sympathetic nervous system response, the last thing your body is going to focus on is rejuvenation and healing itself, repairing things that are broken. In fact, you're just going to continue to go southward, if you will, because your body thinks it's in a temporary state, but it's in a temporary state over and over and over and over and over again. And that just leads to a dilapidated body years later.
It's when people say, well, I'm suffering from adrenal fatigue or I have a low functioning thyroid, and I say, no, you don't. Your body's responding correctly based on the stimulus or based on your perception of the stimulus. It's like if I give, and I describe this all the time, if I give you a goji berry salad, okay, but I'm standing on your feet while you're eating it, you're not going to get the absorption. Okay, now we're in a society that is in a great transition. and societal collapse. Not really. This is the dark ages. We're coming into an enlightenment. Instead of altering people's physiology with a toxic chemical. Wait, no, I'm sorry, that's medical care. Okay, so and their symptoms are really adaptations to stress. Like they over and over, I'll talk about high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, inflammatory bowel diseases, anxiety and stress. All of these are intelligent responses based on the stimulus. So with societal collapse, okay, that you're getting the information from here, not from just, around. Collective mental health, it is. We're at risk of being sucked into this pit. And I think your products, your point of view is what's going to start to shift that into the Renaissance.
I appreciate that.
Collective mental health.
Well, so you hit the nail on the head. Societal collapse is, while there's a lot of people talking about it, depending on which circles you're hanging out in, it's not nearly as realistic as I think a lot of people think it is. And I like to prep and I like to be ready. And don't get me wrong, I'm ready for those situations, probably more than most. But the reality is we've created and co-created a pretty safe existence for ourselves. And yet the mind and the ego continues to play tricks on us, thinking that we're not as safe as we actually are. And that thought process, that negative self-talk of you're not enough or you haven't done enough or you're not loved, leads to conflict. It leads to alienation. Social distancing leads to alienation. And when you're alone, you're left to your own devices. And when you're alone, that's when some of these mental health issues begin to develop and then exacerbate themselves over and over and over again because you're still stuck in that sympathetic nervous system response. Our technology helps to reset that. In as little as 15 minutes, it kicks in the chemical cascades that bring you out of sympathetic and into parasympathetic. Now, I tell people a lot, just buying a sound lounge, a practitioner, or an in-harmony meditation cushion and bringing that into your house, it's not going to change the external stimuli. Those external stimuli are still going to be there. And in fact, we could have a conversation around the universe piling more on you once you start to do this type of work and to really test you and see what you're capable of. But the reality is, when your body is in a sympathetic nervous system response and you can't deal with it, and then you put yourself into a parasympathetic nervous system response, which is associated with calm and relaxed, those same stimuli coming at you, you'll be able to make decisions more rationally. You'll have your immune system fighting off infection and viruses. So which is a whole other conversation, but you'll at least have your immune system that's keeping you as strong and as fit as possible. You'll have your digestion, keeping vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in the bloodstream so that your cells have that bioavailability. And of course, you won't have adrenaline and cortisol flowing through your veins. All of a sudden, you're well equipped to handle those same stimuli, whereas before you would have been triggered. And now you're like, okay, this is what just happened. Let's make some decisions. Let's think about this rationally. This isn't the end of the world. Here we go. So the same stimuli coming at you, all of a sudden you're more grounded, you're more present, and you're more ready, willing, and able to handle the same thing that life is throwing at you.
I like one of the questions I've got, and thank God for these. Okay, technology got us into this mess. How can technology get us out? Except you're talking ancient vibrational energy. When I mentioned how the Buddhist monks would go Om, that vibration literally centers. It gets your body and brain focused into something other than the short-term stress response. And it's supposed to be a short-term stress response where, long-term memory is good because you need to know what a tiger smells like so you can run away from it. Short-term memory, what you had for dinner the other night, isn't there. So all of these are intelligent responses. I utilize a lot of different things to get my brain into that parasympathetic response. And I have to do that before I get into deep sleep. And this is one of the things we teach. Your technology, describe how the vibration and sound can get you into that deeper meditative state, because that is like friggin' the number one key for healing.
Well, look, you mentioned this is the oldest vibroacoustic tool on the planet, and that is the throat and the larynx and the voice box. And that low-level Om is such a dense frequency. Even the gong that gong is a very complex frequency. It's not any one, it's not 432, it's not 528. It's a multitude, it's a broad spectrum frequency. And the study of vibroacoustic therapy is really just the study of how the body interacts with different frequencies, or how different frequencies impact our physiology, our neurology, our anatomy. And this is what I've been immersed in for the last 6 years. And the body of research officially goes back about 40 plus years. We use something called a tactile transducer. Our transducers are about that big. I wish I had one here. I didn't travel with it. I couldn't fit it in my bag. But inside our sound lounge, there's 4 tactile transducers. A tactile transducer, it's a fancy, my business partner, who's the technical side and the engineering side, hates it when I say this, but it's basically a fancy word for half of a speaker. We're used to seeing the cone of a speaker. If you ever had a friend that has a sound system in his trunk, 2 10s, 12s, 15s, whatever, 18-inch speakers, we see the cone. That cone is moving air. And behind it is a magnet. And that magnet is oscillating. And a certain number of oscillations is a certain number of frequencies. So we're basically converting an audio soundtrack into a physical expression that you're laying on top of and are connected to. So instead of it going from air molecule to air molecule to air molecule until it hits you, you're laying on the technology, and a 20 hertz frequency is vibrating every cell in your body at 20 hertz. And this is what creates a very calming effect for our physiological response and for our nervous system. But it's really the magic of listening to the same frequencies that you're feeling. And this is what starts to separate In Harmony technology, which is why I think our name is so fantastic, In Harmony, is because the frequencies that are coming in your audio nerve are the same frequencies that are coming from the mechanoreceptors. So every single mechanoreceptor in your body is vibrating at 40 hertz. It's sending that signal to your brain. Your brain kind of gets a little overwhelmed by this experience, and it just gives this overwhelming 3-dimensional immersive sound experience that literally makes it feel as though you're inside the music, because your brain is getting the same signals from your ears as it is your body. And that's what creates the immersiveness. And that's what ultimately triggers those chemical cascades that are associated with calm and relaxed. At first, we're actually stimulating your nervous system. At first, when we plug in, when we hook you up to HRV, heart rate variability, or we plug you into some type of biofeedback device, if I do that right after your session, even a 22-minute session, it will show me that your body is actually stimulated. But as those chemical cascades settle in, your body gets more and more relaxed. And eventually that parasympathetic nervous system response takes over, and you are cool, calm, and collected, and you feel it and you see it. And if you're all wound up and that's the only way that you know how to be, just getting on our meditation cushion practitioner or a sound lounge, and within moments, you're going to feel calm and relaxed. There's a little bit of a what is happening kind of thing happening for your first session. But a few minutes into that, your body starts to settle. You start to figure out that you're just listening to music and it's just getting lost in the music. And that's the only directive. And before you know it, you are reaching those deeper meditative states, because you're no longer stuck in that beta brainwave. You're no longer stuck in the to-do list, in the myriad of things that we have to think about all day long. Am I going to get the car from the valet? Is something going to happen? All these different things that we're thinking about, even if it's kids or school or parent-teacher conferences or work, or I got to get to the store before they close so I can get tomatoes for my recipe tonight, whatever it might be, all of a sudden you can turn all that off and you can simply relax for a little while. And that's the directive I give. When I'm putting somebody into a sound lounge session or into a meditation cushion, there's no right way to do this. There's no wrong way to do this. You're not supposed to be doing something or not supposed to be doing something. You're just a guy or a gal laying on a bed, listening to music. Try not to overthink it. Keep it really, really simple. And that's the key.
Totally. I mean, the old Native American story of an evil wolf and a good wolf battling for the soul, and they're battling all the time. And the child says, well, which wolf wins? The one you feed. I mean, if you're feeding with anxiety, stress, depression, world economy going down, I mean, viruses, you're going to be in deep trouble. When you talk about vibration, we use vibration, and everybody does. 10 cycles a second we'll put into the body to relax the ligament. Muscles are stimulated at 60 cycles. Nerves are affected at 100 cycles a second. Cells transfer nutrients at 528 cycles a second. There's literally a crystal, barium titanate crystal in every ultrasound head that when you pass electricity through, it'll vibrate at 1 million to 3 million times a second. So when people say, sound vibration, it sounds too out there, bull, we use it every freaking day.
Every day. And most people don't even realize how often. I mean, look, even with phones, right? Megahertz, gigahertz, these are all frequencies. It's all part of the same electromagnetic spectrum that gives us our sight and allows us to see light and allows us to hear. It's really interesting. You touched on something I think that's really important to note, and that is 10 cycles and 10 hertz. This gets us really close to the Schumann resonance, which is 7.83 hertz, which is the natural reverberation and frequency of the planet. We could definitely dive into that. I think that is very, very interesting. When you start to look at different studies of the brain and its resonant frequency, its frequency at rest, depending on which study you look at, Harvard or Stanford, it's anywhere between 5 hertz and 16 hertz. The average of that, call it 10 hertz. The Schumann resonance is your environment, which averages about 10 hertz because it spikes quite often, especially on land. Nature, large bodies of water have a 10 hertz frequency. Large forests and woodland areas have a 10 hertz frequency. Open desert air, 10 hertz frequency. Lakes, rivers, and streams, 10 hertz frequency. Now all of a sudden you start to piece together that the brain, the body, and our environment averages around 10 hertz, then that's where we are when we're at peace. And yet we're sitting in environments like we are right now. Well, actually, you're outside, which I'm exceptionally jealous for. I am sitting inside where I've got electricity that's cycling at 60 hertz on average here in the United States. And I'm surrounded by concrete. I'm actually sitting in an old courthouse here in Tampa, Florida, that's now converted into a hotel. And I'm surrounded by concrete. I'm surrounded by man-made objects. And that is drifting me away from 10 hertz. It's one of the reasons why getting out in nature is so calming and so relaxing. And it's to bring you back to that 10 hertz frequency, which I think is really powerful.
Brother, last 20 hours I've been in a plane.
I'm with you. Me too. 2 planes yesterday, 9 hours. I mean, it's not 20, but it's still.
Yeah.
Look, and there's low levels of radiation there. And not to mention the recycled air that you're breathing. We got to do the things we got to do when we get to where we're going in order to mitigate that.
When you talk, I mean, you're consciously choosing to bring your body and brain up to a certain vibrational state that initiates healing. That's like consciously choosing your diet, consciously choosing your friends, okay, and your connections and what you're putting in there. I mean, just brilliant. You speak about mastering the 3 main external environments: mouth, skin, air. Can you touch on that?
Sure. How does this body interact with the environment around us? Through those 3 main environments: what you put in your mouth, what you put on your skin, and what you allow to be kept in the air around you. The statistics are something wild. You absorb more chlorine in a 10-minute shower than you would drinking a pint of tap water, just because of what they put in to treat the water. It's absolutely remarkable how porous our skin is and how much we interact with the environment around us. And it's one thing if you're using shea butter to moisturize. It's another thing if you're using a chemical or a chemical compound that has preservatives and that sort of thing in it, let alone women and the makeup that they wear and parabens and all of these terrible things for the skin. And when you start to think about these 3 main environments and consciously think about where this body is throughout the course of the day, what it's being exposed to through the course of the day, you really start to identify how this body's detoxing capabilities are in overdrive all day long, mainly the kidneys and the liver all day long, because it's like death by 1,000 cuts. We are bombarding chemical complexity to this body day in and day out. And our poor liver and kidneys need to stay with maximizing that efficiency of detoxing this body. And when you start to become particularly conscious of what you put in your mouth, what you put on your skin, and what you allow to be kept in air around you, and I'm not perfect at all. But the reality is the exceptions become the exceptions, not the rule. And all of a sudden, my body is much more efficient at detoxifying and cleaning itself. And that leads to obviously a much more effective and better operating system for my physical body.
Yeah, buddy, we talk about you can't put anything on your skin you can't eat. And I'm telling you, coming back from Asia, you got the crazy people in America using Purell on their hands, cancer-causing agents.
They're everywhere now. They're everywhere now.
Oh, it's nuts. It's nuts. People are squirting when they go to the supermarket, squirting before they eat at a restaurant. So they're actually ingesting this toxin. And, we introduced, again, essential oils. If you really want to clean your hands, great, that'll work. You get
Lemon
stuff.
I got a paper cut on my thumb, and let me tell you what lemon essential oil feels like when I use it to clean my hands. It's not fun, but the alternative, in my opinion, is madness. It really is. When you start to think about all these different things that we put on our skin and how porous it really is, and you start to pay particular attention to clean and cleanse and dechemicalize everything that you're interacting, remarkably, your body begins to operate better. It becomes more efficient. You sleep better at night. You get digestion becomes improved. The stomach goes away. The fat deposits in the body begin to go down. Really, we are putting these bodies into distress day in and day out. And it starts with that sympathetic nervous system response, and it cascades into so many other aspects of our day-to-day lives that we think is normal and we think is part of every day. And everybody does that. And it's unfortunately just not the case. And it's this awareness that you and so many folks like us are bringing to the world that are really starting to make a difference and starting to turn the dial. It's really exciting.
I love when you talk about the detoxing of the kidneys and liver. We talk about kidney, liver, and lungs. Okay, the kidneys and lungs are literally blood filters. So anything that you can help with that detoxing process is going to be good. Anything you do that slows it down is bad. It's really
that
basic.
Simple. Far too many people want to overcomplicate this. And the reality is, and I coach people and I'm talking to people on a regular basis that are picking my brain. They're coming to my house. They're asking me why I do this or why I do that, or what's that, or what's this. And the decisions are really easy. Like, we know when something is working for us and when something is working against us, because you know how you feel. And if you're doing something over and over again and you continue to not feel so good, like, you got to change something. What is it that's causing, what input is it? Is it gluten? Is it dairy? I mean, there's some basic stuff that so many people are consuming day in and day out. But one of the things that we do is an environmental audit. And this is not part of In Harmony, but this is my parent company, Gold Zulu Incorporated. And that environmental audit would be 7 days with a piece of paper and an alarm on your phone. And this is a great practice to go through if you have any questions about something that might be causing an issue in your environment. And I want you to set a timer on your phone. And every hour, I want you to grab this piece of paper and I want you to write down everything that you put in your mouth, the brands, the quantities, all of it. I want you to write down everything you put on your skin. Again, same thing, brands, if it's makeup, if it's lotion, if it's soap, if it's shampoo, whatever. And I want you to write down where your physical body was for the last hour. Were you sitting next to a window? Were you sitting next to an air conditioning unit? Were you sitting outside underneath this tree that you really like? And when you start to look at 7 days of that data, you start to uncover anomalies and you start to uncover consistencies. And all of a sudden, what you see in that data is, oh man, I didn't realize how often I was putting chapstick on my lips and they're still chapped, right? And I'm here to talk to you about a chapped issue in my lips, whatever. But like, these really simple correlations begin to emerge from that data set. And you can really start to uncover quite a bit around what those unhealthy habits really are, because sometimes it's just right in front of your face and you have no idea that it's, what I don't really have too much around me, but it could be something as simple as the material that's on a finish that's on my sunglasses that's leading to a rash that's, somewhere on my face, whatever it might be. But a really powerful exercise if you've got questions around your environment in particular.
What's amazing, and again, I mean, this is all practices that we do in our clinic in America and Mexico, but in Thailand, the same thing. You get somebody with Parkinson's, okay, and I'm talking, severe neurologic issues, generally aluminum toxicity and toxic environment. It's not bad luck or bad genes. Okay, same thing with Alzheimer's and dementia. We'll have these people who have a really big motor neuron problem. They can't walk. Get them barefoot walking on the grass. The earth has the electronegative charge. Skin on earth contact has an antioxidant effect. And the motor control goes through the roof, where they can literally start to move. And I'm literally educating people to, okay, good. Now we got you on a walker. I want you to walk on grass. What? Grass barefoot? Yeah, avoid the squishy grass. You're going to step on dog poop occasionally, but the benefit far outweigh the squishiness.
Far outweigh. Look, even that's high nitrogen. I mean, there's some benefit in that too. Look, you far too often people want to think to genetics. I get this a lot when people sit down, and I'm sure you've seen this in your clinic too, and they go, "Oh, heart disease runs in my family." And I go, "Does it? Or do you all eat the same foods and gather in the same environments and do the same things? And that's why you have heart disease in your family." And all of a sudden, just asking that question, "Oh yeah, we do all eat the same diet, and we do all eat the same food, and we did grow up doing this, and 7 days a week we do this." And so much of what we think is genetic is really just because families are passing down this cultural norm that's leading to that. And it's not, in fact, in the genetics. Don't get me wrong. I love genetics, epigenetics. I study it. I'm into nutrigenomics as well, which is a big part of what I do outside of In Harmony Interactive. We discount environment, and environment is so important. I don't mean we, mean me and you. I mean, so many folks want to discount environment. And the reality is, it plays a bigger part. Genetics is important, but what they're finding is that environment is so much more important. And simple changes like that make a big deal.
Buddy, genetics, if you go back 10 generations, heck, it's not. I mean, anyone alive today is the end result of tens of thousands of generations that have brought them to this high genetic level. And,
so wild.
And I tell them, I say, look, your diet's going to be pretty simple. It's the same thing as your great-great-grandparents. But, those guys were whacked. They only ate organic. They only ate fresh. They ate mainly plants. They had no preservatives, seasonal. Okay, you're going to be one of those wackos.
I am one of those wackos.
And your great-great-grandparents also, I mean, they didn't have electromagnetic fields that they were exposed to, so you have to reduce those, put the Wi-Fi on a timer. I mean, just all the little things.
So this is why I said, not to cut you off, but this is why I said technology got us into this mess. Technology can get us out. We could talk about that in a second too.
That is the key. You're consciously doing something to bring yourself up to a different vibrational energy so your body can heal. Because if you're in a stress state, you're not going to heal. Mm-hmm. So get into the technology, brother.
Yes. All right. So our tech, again, it's about reaching those deeper meditative states. First of all. Second of all, it feels amazing. Like, that's the other thing that I love about all these different technologies. Like, laying in a red light bed, it feels great. You bring on, like, sitting in an infrared sauna feels great. Laying on a sound lounge, you're listening to music, your brain, your body is in balance. All of the pain in your body, for the most part, goes away for a short period of time, because pain is a very low vibration in the body. And from a nervous system perspective, it's really easy to override that. And so many people are walking around in pain all day, every day. That's because you're in a sympathetic nervous system response. Bring you in a parasympathetic, and a lot of times some of that pain will subside, not permanently, not forever, but then you come back and you do another session. And as you can train your brain and your body to go back into that parasympathetic, it will stay there longer. So our technology, we've been doing this for 6 years. We made our sound lounge. Our first sound lounge came off the production line in November of 2016. We literally just had our 6-year anniversary. January of 2018, we came out with our practitioner, which is designed to go on top of a massage table. It's designed to augment body work with sound and vibrational body work. And then we came out with our meditation cushion, which I almost wanted to point behind me, but it's not behind me. It's in my office at home where it sits behind me. And we came out with our meditation cushion, which has really been, specifically during the pandemic, we wanted a unit that was easier for folks to bring into their home to still gain the benefits of that. We started to see the issues that the pandemic was starting to have on mental health, and we wanted to help people to get into that meditative state. So one transducer at your root, it really, you literally feel every vibration up your entire spinal cord, has built-in speakers and an amplifier. And we're not slowing down. We've had a really good 12 months. We've been doing this for 6 years. And the last 2 years have really been a dramatic upswing in adoption and exposure. And we're going to keep building and keep growing. We've got a number of different products that are in the project timeline. I don't like talking about anything until it's in the warehouse, but we do have a series of prototypes that we're working on. And then, of course, In Harmony Media, which is our record label that is creating the music that drives all of our technology. And when I really start getting passionate around talking about my technology, all of the hairs in my nose start to itch and tingle. It's one of the most wildest phenomenon that I know, but it's always as I get really passionate talking about our technology that happens. And it's a really exciting place to be. I'm honored and excited to be working with we have over 300 affiliates that represent our technology all around the world, and a number of artists that are contributing music to what we're doing. It's a very exciting movement, and it's a very exciting time for us.
Okay, in the product line, I'm really looking for a 528 hertz white noise machine. Okay, if you could do that, that's fantastic. Your transducer, okay, just for people to understand, the sound travels faster through a solid than through air. So this is why one of the ways that I test nerve damage, I'll put a 128 hertz tuning fork in the head and have them close off one ear and then close off the other ear. When you close off the ear, that sound appears louder in that side only because it's getting to the nerve root faster. So wow. Having a transducer to actually put this vibration directly into the body, freaking brilliant.
So here's the cool part, and there's a couple things and a couple caveats to our business and to our tech as well, which I do want to share with you. First of all, that's remarkable. Sound actually travels 5 times faster through water than it does air as well. It's just really remarkable when you start to get into the physics of sound and vibration. You can play anything you want through our technology. So I think that's one of the most exciting aspects to it, is that you can also listen to any song you want to. All of our transducers are wired in series. For the practitioner in the sound lounge that have more than one, all low-end frequencies from conventional recorded music is mastered as mono. Stereo or surround sound is going to be all of the higher pitched frequencies, but low-end frequencies, and we're familiar with this from the home stereo system. You can put the subwoofer anywhere you want, and it feels like it's filling the entire room. It's because low-end frequency is not directional. So because our transducers are wired in series, you could listen to the Dark Side of the Moon, reggae, hip hop, house music, classical, whatever it is that you like to listen to, cool. You can listen to through our tech, including white noise. So if you wanted to play white noise through an app on your phone, you sync it to the cushion and you give them that experience.
Oh, bitchin'. Okay. How can people learn more about your products? I think we've got like a discount too, so people can get.
Yeah, we do. So Kat and I have been working on all of this. You're going to be able to go to, I'm sure Kat's going to put this somewhere on here, but it's iaminharmony.com/pages/Dr. BVIP. And I'm going to create a page specifically for you. We're giving away 1 year of subscription to our In Harmony Music Meditations app, which as of right now has 220 plus tracks in it. And we're continually adding more music to it as well. So there's going to be instructions on that page for you to download the app, activate your 1 year subscription, and get organized there. And then we're also offering 5% off all of our technology, which ranges in price from $699 for the cushion, $34.56 for the practitioner, and $56.78 for our sound lounge. So that 5% actually goes a long way in a nice discount that we're offering out to your people as well.
Just for everybody out there, know you've got 3 stressors: physical, chemical, and emotional stress. You're addressing actually all 3. Okay, because emotions are a chemical stressor. Chemicals, what you put on your skin or in your body, and all of this has an effect, the exact same effect as if you were hit by a car. So you've got to address all 3, and brother, you're doing it.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. It's so foundational. It is so foundational to everything. And the reality is, and I said this once, and I think it's worth repeating, if you're walking around a sympathetic nervous system response, it doesn't matter what else you're doing, because you're not going to get the benefit from it, because your body is in that fight or flight response. And a lot of your functionality, regular functionality for day-to-day tasks, is turned off and deprioritized over saving your life, which for the most part, we're just stuck in traffic, or the person in front of us at the checkout counter is just using too many coupons and you only have one thing and you want to get out of there. Whatever it is, we get triggered for your sister's doing that thing she always does and she won't stop doing it, like whatever. But we get triggered for the most silly things. That's not a mugger in a dark alley. I'm from New York. I've made a couple wrong turns on a couple wrong streets. All of a sudden my spidey sense goes off. Like, that's what your sympathetic nervous system response is designed for. not for I'm running late and Dr. John's going to crush me if I'm, if I'm a couple minutes late, when I could just call John. Hey, John, I'm running a couple minutes late. I go, okay, cool. No problem. I'm good. I go, situation averted. Anyhow.
God bless you, man.
Bless you as well. I appreciate it.
You're doing technology that is going to help with tissue regeneration. That's it. You build cells faster than they break down. That's called health.
Something like 1 billion. Is it 1 billion a day?
1 billion a day, brother. 1 billion a day. But that also means that if you have any disease process, know that it's not genetic. It's going to be genetic expression. Okay, your genes are expressing correctly based on the stimuli, and if you can consciously get yourself in a mental state that allows your body to heal, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. But it's so hard because of the construct that we have co-created. And look, I was talking to a buddy of mine, Cody Crowley, who loves our technology. He's a fighter. And I was talking to him this morning. We've been trying to get together for a month and a half. And every time he texts me or call me, there's some kind of chaos going on in my household. And it's all good stuff. I have a 2.5-year-old. My wife works full time. I'm working more than full time building this company. There's just a lot of moving parts. And I said, Cody, my front door is always open. I want you on my couch. Anytime you want to sit on my couch, just come in and interrupt that, because we've co-created, my wife and I have co-created this household that feels like there's always something happening. And that's because we're just really good at filling time. And you watching this, you're really good at filling time too. And it just feels like your life is going and going and going. We need to take time, take 11 minutes on a meditation cushion, or just use the free app download that we're giving you by listening to this, and put on a pair of AirPods or a headphone, or get yourself a nice Bluetooth speaker. You don't even need to sit on my tech. I know this is not the message that I should be giving people, but the reality is, give yourself the break that you deserve. And we're gifting you the tools to do it right now without buying anything. And then if you enjoy that, then you can justify making the investment in the meditation cushion, the practitioner, or the sound lounge. I think you'll be really happy that you did. Our return rate is exceptionally low. And we've got a really bustling community on the other side of that purchase that I hope each and every one of you will consider joining.
Absolutely, man. Make a conscious choice to put good things in your mind and your body. And your body will respond with health.
That's it. This, as miraculous and amazing as this body is, it knows exactly what to do. And I love how beautifully you put this, Doc. It is the response, and it's giving you the correct response, giving the stimuli. You just need to recognize and realize that the stimuli you're giving it is leading. It's the victim mentality versus taking responsibility for your actions. And when you take responsibilities for your actions, all of a sudden you can make dramatic changes, and they're not hard to make, because it's just a series of small decisions that you don't feel like you have the energy to be able to make when you're in that sympathetic nervous system response. But all of a sudden you reset into parasympathetic, and you have all of this pent up energy that now you can make better decisions. And you can say, I want to go for a walk right now. I want to have the salad instead of the steak, or whatever that decision might be. But all of a sudden you start making a series of better decisions that leads to better outcomes. And day in and day out, you get healthier and healthier and healthier. It took a lot of us, and myself included, took a lot of us a long time to get sick. And it's going to take us some time to get healthy. But at least you can start to shift the pendulum, allow it to shift to that other side, and start feeling better and better and better every single day. Before you know it, you look up, you turn around, you realize how far you've come and how much you've gotten accomplished and how much you love looking in the mirror. And it starts with one decision. And then you layer on top of that a bunch of good decisions after that.
God, brilliant. Because to change your lifestyle can be overwhelming to some, but it's literally the longest journey begins with one step. Man, and just taking a little bit of time, okay, every day to get centered, that's a good step.
That's right. And it leads to, so using our technology, right? Because I talk to a lot of people that tell me, oh, Craig, I tried meditating. I can't meditate. And the reason you can't meditate is because your brain has learned how to stay in that beta brainwave. And I'm that person. It's one of the reasons why I have the technology company that I do, is because I couldn't meditate. So for me to create the meditation cushion and now to be able to use it and drop into that meditative state, I have trained my brain on how to go out of beta into alpha and theta and delta and up into gamma when I needed to. big part of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work is teaching you how to go into that gamma brainwave state on cue when you want. Think of our technology as training wheels that teaches you how to get into alpha, theta, or rather alpha, theta, and delta, so that when you are online and you do have a quick checkout and that person in front of you is fumbling with the checkout, or they're using that card for the fourth time in a row and that password still doesn't work. Happened to me yesterday at the airport. She must have tried this card 6 times. No, just try it. Hit credit. It'll work. I know it'll work. You just take a deep breath and you just relax, and your body knows what to do, and you can drift into that deeper meditative state on cue, at the supermarket, on the road. I was talking to a buddy of mine today driving here in Tampa, and he's got a little bit of road rage. And he may or may not have flipped this guy off. He may not have started following him, videotaping him while he was driving. It was this thing while I was talking to him, and I'm like, we got to get off the phone right now. You need to focus on the road. And again, he doesn't have my tech, a little bit of time on the tech, and all of those situations just melt away. That guy who cuts you off is just going in front of you instead of cutting you off. And yeah, he was a little too close, but he didn't hit you, so it's all good. Right? And it's just this simple change. It's the same scenario. That guy just cut me off. No, he was just changing and he didn't see me, and he was close, but he didn't hit me. It's the same situation, but it's 2 totally different responses. And that's all because of our training, and it's all because of our mentality. And look, my tech, I've been using it for 6 years, and it's why people tell me I'm cool, calm, and collected. Hey, Craig, you're always so chill. I'm doing the things now. If you saw me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was in New York City, working in New York City nightlife. I was partying 7 days a week. I've consumed more alcohol than I need to consume in 3 lifetimes. I haven't had alcohol in 10 years. And I am now, I used to smoke a pack a day of cigarettes. And now I tend, sleep is the most important aspect of my night, believe it or not. We covet our sleep. I'm getting morning sunlight every day. I'm drinking clean water. I'm eating mostly plant-based diet from Whole Foods, not from packaging. Not perfect, but mostly. I'm spending time with my wife. I have a daily meditation practice. I'm using my technology and many other technologies that we've mentioned here already. I'm spending cuddle time and prioritizing time with my wife and my daughter because I need that connection, and I know how important it is to me. Doing hot and cold therapy. I'm doing things today that 15 years ago, if you told me that this was who I was going to be in 15 years, I would have told you you're nuts. And yet here I am. And just like you said, it's a series of easy decisions that led to better decisions, that led to better decisions, that leads to where you are today.
Man, so you're telling me you could start at any level? So
Any
ex-drug addict or current drug addict or high stress executive, or yeah, man, make that
wherever
step.
You are.
You know,
wherever you are, it's perfect.
Your sessions are 11 minutes long?
Correct.
I think your life is worth 11 minutes. I'd give it a shot.
There's a 2-minute and 22-second demo in the app. In fact, right? I mean, if you only have everybody has 2 minutes and 22 seconds, right? So yeah, the tracks in our app range from 2 minutes to 2 hours. We've got some longer sessions, particularly for the Sound Lounge. We do quite a bit in psychedelic therapy, both ketamine and where psilocybin research is happening. You can find our technology as well. So we have tracks in the app that are being used in those longer journeys, and with high levels of efficacy, and some pretty remarkable science and studies coming out.
Craig, hopefully this is part 1 of a 2-part series.
Okay, I love that.
You're making a difference.
I want to come to Huntington Beach. Let's come. Let's meet in person.
Oh yeah, Huntington Beach, or you'd love our clinic in Mexico. It's right in TJ, short shot from San Diego.
We manufacture in Tijuana. I love it down there, so I would love to come down to Tijuana.
Oh, cool, man! I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. You're definitely
pleasure.
God bless you, man, and
God bless you.
Get out there, hit the link below, and thanks so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.